Peter, thank you for joining me. And today is 15 years to the day since the Pirate Bay was raided. The
Yay.
sort of infamous thing, which has sparked a lot of issues around piracy and P2P over the last 15 years.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, remarkable day in many ways.
yes. Would you like to tell us a little bit about what led to the founding of the Pirate Bay and your background with the pirate Byron? Is that the right way to pronounce it? My Swedish pronunciation is terrible.
Well, we have this Scandinavian saying that beloved child have many names. So the more names you come up with, it's better. It just means we're more loved. But basically, what happened is that Piratbyrån, the Bureau for Piracy,
Hmm.
founded the Pirate Bay, I think 17 years ago then, or 18 years ago, something like that.
About
Can't
2003, right?
Maybe we're not really sure who came up with the idea at what time, when, who was involved, all of these things. It was very much a community effort. Yeah, so basically we had the idea that internet should be about people and not about companies, and it should be about information sharing. Don't want to use the cliche about that information is supposed to be free or anything like that, but it was
Hmm.
more about availability and maybe more fairness about who decides and dictates terms for which information should be available and where it should be available and which format and so on. And was just everything was about playing with technology and maybe a little bit of PR as well, I would say. It was very much about fun of making fun of the discourse more than participating to begin with. We didn't really want to talk to people. We wanted to tell people off. And I think that's kind of what people enjoy the most from Pirate Bay as a group was more the telling off than the actual technology. Even though everyone else had much better torrent sites, Pirate Bay was always the one with kind of like the spirit. And I think,
Yes, definitely.
yeah, that's always been the thing.
Yeah, a lot of people always cited the legal threats, the legal threats page, which I believe you had a significant hand in, right?
Yes, I think me and Gottfried were the ones writing most of them, and it was very fun. He was more obnoxious than me, I would say. Uh, to his effort, a much better effort than I did. But it was very fun, and it was very. I think we set a tone that a lot of people liked, and I think it also, made me realize what I liked as well and what kind of things I cared about as well. So it's been a very well, it kind of created who I am in many ways, or it set kind of cemented what I believed in and kind of what I been working on ever since as well.
Yes. So, what exactly when the raid happened? Where exactly were you, and how did you find out about the raid happening?
So I was at my own place at home, and I got a phone call from a guy who worked at the internet provider that we had, saying that there was a lot of police everywhere, and they were trying to get into the data center, and I had a court order, like a warrant, to go and get Pirate Bay related stuff. So I tried getting Gottfried and Frederick, but I couldn't for a certain reason. They were already arrested, I think, at the time, and so I started downloading backups of the servers. I think Frederick had already started doing the same before they arrested him.
Hmm.
They didn't know about me, or so they knew that we were three people, but they thought that the third person would be our lawyer, so they arrested him as well, which was kind of an interesting
That
thing.
that's unusual to arrest somebody's lawyer. Yeah,
Yeah, but it just means you have a very interesting lawyer.
true.
Kind of funny. Right now, there is a debate going on in Sweden, funnily enough, about lawyers actually handing out information that they're not supposed to hand over to their clients, and it's becoming a kind of big thing. And it's kind of the opposite in our case, that they arrest the lawyer because he didn't have any information. So it was funny. Yeah, but so that was going on, and we got some of the code. We had kind of broken backups from Pirate Bay, and we downloaded the rest from the biggest pirate archive in the world, archive.org's Wayback Machine. We got the last of the data from there, all of the images and everything in JavaScript and stuff. And then it took a few days and Pirate Bay was back up. So like in 3 days, I guess it's the 15th anniversary from Pirate Bay coming back up again, which is maybe more fun than this.
The Phoenix Bay, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know there were quite a lot of people who were very surprised, very, yes, elated and jubilant about it. And it was, because I remember, it was before I started with Torrent Freak, but I remember I was, it was how I started in P2P reporting, because I got a press release from another company, a game company, who was also in the same data center. And the police had taken their servers as well, because they were a little indiscriminate with all their taking. So they were upset about how the police had just gone and pulled, it was something like 20 or 30 racks of servers or something, wasn't it? If I remember right.
Yeah, they took about 200 servers, I think. And out of those, I think 12 or 13 were Pirate Bay related stuff at all. And they went to, I think there were 50-something police officers at 4 or 5 different locations. We don't even know which all of the locations are, really. They must have gone to some places where there was no one. So that was interesting. And when they arrested everyone, they basically came in with nothing. And then they hired or they rented big trucks and stuff from gas stations and everywhere just to be able to get all of the gear, because they had no idea how big it was or how much they could fit and what they needed to take. And they brought speakers and speaker cables and mice and keyboards, everything that was somehow technical. They brought, even, it was just very weird, all of the weirdness of the effort, which was not surprising afterwards, learning how everything came about and why they did a very stressful raid against the Pirate Bay. So yeah, I didn't know that's how you started, but that's interesting.
Yeah, that's I started with my writing on that. I'd done some research earlier with some other sites, but that was my first attempt at writing like that, because I always hated writing. So
yeah,
and from that, obviously, the week after started a number of pirate parties. The Swedish one had started the start of the year, and then in the week afterwards, I remember there was a huge thing. The US pirate party started and is still trying to start. France, Spain, Germany, obviously, Finland, I believe, started then. I'm going to hopefully talk to those for next week. But that they all started from this raid. So, and of course, you yourself started off with not started off, but you did join in with the Finnish Pirate Party in 2014 for a European Parliament run.
Yeah, it was very, very strange, because it's like I ran for them more than joined them. I think I wouldn't say abused it, but we used each other a little bit, because I've never been like really into party politics. I ran with a platform of please give me, vote for me so I get diplomatic immunity. That was kind of my voting platform, and I think they were totally fine with me joining because of, they liked that I'm a troll somehow, and it got them quite some attention as well.
Oh yes, I remember.
So, yeah,
that I think at the time I was the head of the US party and head of the governors for the UK party, so I remember it well.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It was very strange, but I have this thing, I always want to try different things, and I thought it was a really fun way. I was wanted by Interpol at the time, so it was really fun to actually run for European elections with the platform of, like, if you want to mess with the Swedes and with Interpol, you vote for me, and that's the best way of getting votes.
A little international rivalry going between Finland and Sweden.
And Sweden. Yeah. That was kind of I'm very outspoken that I'm a socialist. I'm very, for refugees having the right to go anywhere, and I don't like borders in general. And in Finland, there's a lot of anti-Swedish nationalist people, and instead of them voting for or for the nationalist parties, I rather wanted them to vote for me because, I'm a Finnish person that is being persecuted by the Swedish government. So they had to decide, do I hate immigrants more than I hate Sweden? And a lot of them hate Sweden more than immigrants. So then it's better they vote for me. So I'm happy that I could steal some of the obnoxious people's votes. So it was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, that certainly sounds. I wasn't quite aware of the Swedish-Finland rivalry, so to speak.
Yeah.
Being British, we have our own rivalries with France and other places.
And everyone.
Yes. Even living in the US now, yes, we have that. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes, you ran for candidacy in 2014, but you also got arrested, right? In fact, 8 years, was it 7 or 8 years ago to the day, again for this.
It always happens on the 31st of May. So it's not a good day in general for everything I do or around the Pirate Bay. I think there's been other things that happened that day as well. I think one of the appeals didn't go through on that day. So certain things have always happened. It's like Christmas for the anti-pirates.
Hopefully this video will help change that a little, but we can always hope.
The day is not over yet, so we can see what happens.
True. So you then left the Pirate Bay a few years after the thing, right? So what was it? 2000 and I want to say 6, 7 was it?
No, I think 9, 10, something like that. I'm not sure.
It's hard to tell a lot of the times. A lot of things are a little nebulous.
Yeah, no, but we're all getting old, I think. But it was a few years after. I think it's 2009. I got tired of the project. It's been, a big portion of my life. But I always compare it to being you have all of these TV shows like Big Brother and everything. You always get the kind of prefix of Pirate Bay or Survivor or Big Brother member, whatever. So instead of being Big Brother Peter or Survivor Peter, I'm Pirate Bay Peter. And it's going to stick with me for the rest of my life, even though it's now at least 10 years ago plus that I left. And it's, 15 years ago since it was, most important time in history for kind of the project. Even though I don't have an issue with the prefix or anything like that. I just think that I've done quite a lot of things afterwards that I'm more proud of as well. But I get kind of the why people still look at it that way. And it is a big thing. So, but it is very special that it's always going to be tied to me, even though it's a short period of my life. But it happens.
Yeah. So some of these other projects, one of the more intriguing ones is, of course, Flatter.
Yeah. Thank you.
I used that myself. I used it. I joined it as soon as I could to use, and I loved the idea, and it was a great idea for a micropayment site.
I loved it. It was my kind of my baby, and a very pragmatic way of actually sharing money the same way as sharing other information, very easy and very simple. Now I don't see that Flatter had a big. It wasn't a bad idea. It wasn't bad technical implementation. It was just going back to the problem that Pirate Bay was trying to solve was ownership and control of content, and that was the major hurdle for Flatter. And I guess it's still kind of the major problem for Flatter as well. It's ironically, we found a way to get people to be able to give money, but there was no one that was everyone who wanted to get the money was kind of locked into a vendor like YouTube or something who didn't allow them to get the money from us without taking a huge cut or something else, which went against kind of the ethos of the project. So that was the hurdle. But I think I spent more time working with Flatter than I spent working with Pirate Bay, which is the irony of it all. And people, it was the funniest thing, there's a company in Germany that bought Flatter and still run it today called IO, which is, they run AdBlock Plus, which is the biggest ad blocking platform. And it was kind of funny to me because when we started working with them from Flatter perspective, we were very big in Germany and other countries for podcasting and so on, for financing and payments. And Adblock were very hated in Germany, specifically because of blocking a lot of the German media advertising. So they sued Adblock very much. And then we started working together with Adblock and Flatter and Adblock. And then I remember one time I was at a big media conference in Germany, and a journalist came up to me and said, if I'm not afraid of working with Adblock because Flatter is looked at as like the heroes and like the people that are going to save the media industry and publishing industry in Germany. And then we started working with like these bad guys that are against, helping the media industry. And I'm like, look, this woman, like, this is not what I'm used to hearing, that I'm like working with, the devils that hate the media industry. I'm like, I just had to ask her, do you know my background? And she's like, yeah, sure. And then she realizes, oh yeah, the media doesn't. It was very funny. But and people had a hard time like understanding like the ethos of Flatter, how it actually goes hand in hand with the ethos of piracy, because it was like the anti-pirates very often have this idea that people don't want to pay and that they're like greedy, lazy, all of this, the generation free and all of that. And Flatter kind of like proved the opposite, that it's not about the cost. It's about how to share, why to share, budgets, all of these things that are like just that we wanted to help. We want to pitch in, but we don't want to maybe pay awful companies that lock in people or take money or whatever. We want to have a more direct contact. And that's what kind of Flatter solved, and also proved in many ways that it was much easier to get people to give money than actually being able to let them receive the money, which is what we also see with Patreon and all of these platforms now. That it's never been about not being wanting to pay or give money for things. It's been just we want a different way of doing it. So Flatter for me was very much just a proof of concept, very pragmatic and practical way of actually doing it. And so, and I'm very proud of that as well.
I was going to say how it certainly seemed to inspire things like Patreon and later OnlyFans in a way. Which has become a huge thing in its own. It just may have hit the wrong time, a little too early, too much ahead of itself.
I think the problem with Flatter and other projects that I've been part of is that the ethos is very much that we want a decentralized world, and we don't want to be a platform that people build upon and depend upon and become like a single point of failure or like a kind of a market dictation system. So we didn't build a platform where people would come as a destination. So like we didn't build Reddit and then put money on top of it. We built a system you could use on Reddit or YouTube or somewhere else. So about more decentralized and not taking something away from people, but giving technology. And that's not a very successful strategy when it comes to how kind of the consumerist capitalist internet has become, where you want to lock people in, and that's the way you actually become really big, that you have vendor locks. And I think in many ways, when I started with Flatter, internet was much more decentralized, and people had their own blog platforms, they had their own platforms and then web pages and so on. And then it's just started moving over to becoming, everyone moved to Blogspot or to WordPress.com instead of having their own site. And then they started moving to Facebook and then Twitter and so on. So we were both too early and a little bit too late to actually start one of these big destination sites. And I think like with Patreon, it's the opposite. You have to go to Patreon to actually unlock content and so on. So
the same with OnlyFans, yes.
Especially. Yes, exactly. So so that's kind of, again, like I don't like that approach, but I do get why it's much more financially successful and so on. But this is the problem. Like, do you want to be the least evil person, or do you want to be the nice person? Like, what's the mission of the goal of the project you're working on? So but I'm super. I know that a lot of people give Flatter credit for Patreon coming along. A lot of people give Pirate Bay credit for Spotify coming along, and in many ways, it's both flattering and at the same time it feels like it's a dual loss for me because I didn't want Spotify to be here, because now we have a centralized platform which dictates our cultural heritage. I don't really like that Patreon is locking people in and you have to pay to unlock content. It goes against all of these things. So, but at the same time, it has shifted something, right? So it has become less bad than before, but it's not the ideal place where it could have been at.
True enough. Okay. One of your other projects that seemed to be very interesting is the copy machine in
Yeah,
2015.
thank you.
Showing the myth of the copy being the lost sale.
Yeah.
It was a song. I can't remember the song. Which song was it?
It's Crazy by Gnarls Barkley, because I needed someone with a hard name to pronounce it in English. So yeah, Crazy is easy enough, but Gnarls Barkley is kind of like hard for a Scandinavian to say.
Well, it's a silent G, Knowles Barkley, yes. So
yeah, exactly. See?
yeah, but was it something like 8 million copies a day? It was doing, or something like that?
Yeah. I've made a new version which runs on a Raspberry 4 as well, so it's making many more copies per day now. That version. So yeah, but the whole idea is showing. So it makes a song or a copy of a song, and then just copies it to DevNull, which means that there is no actual copy. But it makes a copy that doesn't exist anymore. So it's like deletes it afterwards or during the copying, and just shows on a display how many copies has been made and how much money that is equating to according to the record industry, and what they use as evidence actually in many court cases that this is our actual lost amount of money for every copy, whatever purpose it has. So the copy machine wanted to show that value is not always in finance, is not a financial number. Value can have some other meaning, and in order to actually disprove all of these things. So it's an art piece that it's been going around on tour, been displayed in many art galleries and so on. So it has been using kind of the art as a way to make a political statement and argument. It's been fun to build. It's super simple machine, so yeah, it took me probably 15 minutes to code or something like that, and yeah.
It'd take me a lot longer. I hate coding. I haven't coded in over 20 years, so
that's good. I code less and less because I don't have time for it and no energy, and there's so many new things that I have to, all of the new frameworks and so on that I just can't deal with. So yeah.
And now you got was it? Now you're going for the hard names. Nyla.
Nyla.
Okay.
Yeah.
A domain registration service, right?
Yeah, among other things as well.
Yes, yeah. And it's or is it a privacy service, or is that Sarek?
No, so Sarek is my project after Nyla.
Okay.
So basically, I started Nyla because I needed. I've been thinking about this for probably since 2008. I wanted to build my own domain registrar. Because we've had issues with Pirate Bay. Other projects I've been involved in also had the same issues, that domain names are becoming increasingly a target for any type of opponent you have as an activist group. And a lot of the registrars have been really, let's say, not helpful in trying to protect the right of having your own domain name and censoring and so on. And so Nyla was a way for me to build the service that I wanted, but also have both in technical terms, but also in political terms, because I want to have a privacy service that protects me and don't keep too much data and don't collect too much data, in payment systems that are easy, and also a technical platform that is super simple and just works all the time and doesn't give me too much stuff. So Nyla, we started that in, I think, 2017. And I worked day to day on it for quite some time, and then I kind of finished with it a little bit as a project for me, as a day to day thing. I'm still involved on the advisory board and so on. But I realized that a lot of the things that were problematic was that Nyla is not a registrar per se; it's an end customer. We'd register the domain names for ourselves, and you have the right to use them. So basically, we are the legal owner of the domain names. So if we have to give out any sort of information, it would be our own. Legally, we are the owners. But I also wanted to build a registrar that had the same interest as Nyla had. a little bit technical, but a registrar is not just resells domain names. So basically, we have a deal with .fi, for instance, and we can sell you .fi domain names, but we're not allowed to buy them for ourselves. So Nyla could be a customer of Sarek, but Sarek could not do what Nyla does, and so on. And we've been working with some of these registrars with Nyla, and we've worked with the least bad ones, and they have the same. In general, they have the same idea of free and open internet as we have, but we've been a little bit more tech savvy, more about privacy and security, and so on. So I started Sarek as kind of the next project after Nyla that I wanted to focus a little bit more on. That is less about everyday support and ticketing systems and building features, and much more about building a great API and automating everything and getting good deals with the registrars and top level domains. So I applied for ICANN accreditation, which has been kind of also quite public, that I'm the first one ever to actually be denied ICANN accreditation for my personal ideology. They are. We're still having an ongoing argument about where it ends up, but they basically said that they care too much about copyright for allowing me with a different view on copyrights and the material rights discourse to actually join this very open group that are a multi-stakeholder group that are allowing everyone with different views in except me. So I'm singled out, which is very strange because I've fulfilled all of the requirements and everything, and we've been working 1.5 years almost to get the accreditation going, and usually it's like 6 months, but they have a lot of meetings to actually find a way to kick me out, which has been, it's like an honor in many ways. But it also means that there's a space there that needs to be filled, and so I'm on the right track, is my feeling.
Definitely. I mean, I've had my own domain problems, especially with the privacy. So Nyla, we think I had issues with the UK system. Nominet wanted to start putting everybody through a database and start checking IDs and things before, and if you didn't match up to their databases, they'd suspend your domain.
Yeah, and they still do. And this is one thing that is really good when we're Sarek, or for that matter Nyla, they're a little bit not always okay with, but Sarek they're okay with because they know what we do and they know why we do it. We fulfill all the requirements. We're easy to talk to. We're very open and explaining why we do things the way we do them and why it's important to us, and it's not good business. It's the opposite. And I think like Nominet and other people, they respect that, and they actually like that better because they know why we're doing things, instead of like, oh yeah, they want a lower price. Like, no, we don't want a lower price. We don't care about the price for the domain names. We care about privacy. We care about like good technology. We need security. Like we need DNSSEC for all of the domain names, all of these things. And they know that we understand the internet in a way that most other registrars don't really do. And it's kind of been interesting working with on that level. And for me, the end goal is, of course, that we want to be, very involved in ICANN and actually go to board meetings and all of these things and change the most centralized part of the internet, which we should have done, 20 years ago. Because the more the internet gets attacked and the more we depend upon the internet, the more we need people that are involved in the everyday, centralized services and parts of the internet to actually be there and talk for the good of the community and not just the good for their individual wallets.
Yeah, money always seems to talk a lot more than anything else.
Yeah, that's sadly enough. But then the other thing we can come with as a registrar is volumes, right? So if we have enough customers and we, join forces with other registrars and resellers and other domain projects, and we have a large user base, they will have to listen to us because we have volume, even though we don't have money, right? So, that's kind of the goal with this as well, to get a lot of volume, just to get quantity is also quality in many ways.
Yes.
So, which is what I noticed with Pirate Bay as well. Like, it's been very much about quantity in order to actually move things and push people around.
Yes, and so now you're on the US Notorious Markets list, or being proposed to it with Nyla. So that's the Notorious Markets list. Interpol wanted. You're just clocking up the white collar crime badges of honor, so to speak.
And it's with different projects. That's my that's my honors, right? So it's been I think I've been on the Notorious Markets list with 3 different projects, almost 2 or 3 at least.
Well, obviously
So
the Pirate Bay,
yeah,
Nyla.
and Nyla. And I think one more that people don't know I'm involved with. So I'm just going to keep it there. But it's yeah, I've been involved in many projects. Also, like obviously, people know that we worked with WikiLeaks before as well. So it's been very fun to just have a lot of these projects that are important to the internet and democracy and kind of the discourse of what the internet brings. And it's fun to, even though like I've been doing this for 20 years, to even still to this day end up on these lists is it's not because Nyla is doing something. That's not, the problem with Nyla is just because I'm involved. They wouldn't have listed Nyla without me being involved, I'm very sure, which is I take it as an honor. And it's because they're scared of, one person. And that's amazing. Like if one person can actually scare these really large companies, that's it's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely. And perhaps it's maybe your media image, because I mean you've been the star of 2 films so far. Steal This Film and TPBFK.
And Steal This Film too.
Oh, that's of course. Well, Jamie will never forgive me if I don't. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's more TV projects coming as well. So that's I'm working quite a lot with TV projects in general.
That's right. The ones in Finland, right?
I made one for the Finnish and Swedish TV, which has been broadcasted in Finland. I don't know when it's supposed to come on Swedish TV as well, which is about activism in general. And I'm working on 2 other projects right now as well that are like TV projects are a little bit bigger budget than that one. And all of them have kind of the same idea that I want to make people discuss and talk about technology as, that it's not just technology, that it has some sort of ideology behind it, or the way it's being used, there's an ideology behind it. And we need to like understand why and how and all of these things. And I've realized that working with media in that way has been really good, because we can talk and we understand each other and we have the same views, and we tend to, in communities, preach to the choir quite a bit. And that's not going to help in the end if we're the minority. And that's why it's been really important for me to work with public broadcasting rather than working on the private stations for most of the time. I want to get like the audience that I would not get otherwise to actually listen and maybe not agree with me, but at least respond and think about the things that I find problematic. And I've been lucky enough to be able to do that. So, and I think it's fun. Also, I enjoy doing things that I'm not really good at. So that's why I do the TV things. So, yeah.
I don't know. You seem like a natural, confident, relaxed, clear, articulate.
It's just, yeah, no, that's just because I know you. No, but in general, I think it's, I'm getting old enough to understand, like, there's another shot. If you make a fool of yourself, go do it again, and it's not as bad next time.
Oh, definitely, yes. How much time or how much communication do you have now with Frederick and Gottfried these days?
Nothing.
Nothing at all?
No. I think I spoke to Frederick like maybe 10 years ago last time. Yeah, 6, 7, 8, yeah, something like that. And then Gottfried I spoke with a few years ago. And was just like to check in on his health, I think, but it's nothing since then.
Yeah.
So
just kind of ships the past the night now. It was just a chapter then, and nothing now. It's
yeah, but that's the thing. Like we never really agreed on things. I had fun sometimes hanging out with Frederick. He's not not everything with him is bad. Like it's same with Gottfried. Not everything with him are bad, but in general, we are not this. We're not obvious friends that would hang out. We are very much in disagreement. We have different interests. They have sweet parts of themselves as well, but in general, I think I've becoming much more not okay with people that are racist. That's very much my biggest problem with both of them. That's just like a very core fundamental beliefs that I have in human rights and human equality that they don't really share. So for me, I can't hang out with them, and I think they tend to agree with that on the other ways around as well. That I don't think that they don't hate everything about me, but they do dislike that I'm always vocal about racism and anti-racism all the time. So I think that's just like, we don't need to hang out. So there's no point in hanging out with someone you don't like hanging out with. So yeah.
True. Yeah, you just kind of ships that met for a while and moved on to your own separate projects, sort of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, again, that was the strength of Pirate Bay in very many ways, that we didn't talk about other things because we started fighting. So, sometimes I would mess with Gottfried. Like we had Frederick and I talked more technology, and Gottfried and I talked more about politics and ideology and so on. So we would send each other like links to annoying philosophers, and then kind of things to discuss, which was funny. And then, it was good that we didn't talk about other things, because we could focus very much on Pirate Bay and what we did there. Because I would assume that we still agree on all of the kind of basic ideologies of a free and open internet, because it's good for racists as well as anti-racists. So.
Good for everybody, yes. And again, you said earlier about not being like in a bubble, and this embraced all sides of the bubble and didn't close off certain thoughts due to other thoughts. So,
how's it going with the US Pirate Party?
I took a break about 2 years ago, just to try and. I've been trying to get a history of the pirate parties, like by years, done for a book, and that's just been slow.
I was never really involved in the pirate party scene, even though I know a lot of the people involved. But it's been also coming from like I wouldn't say total outsider, but like someone on the side of all of the things. It's been a lot of internal struggles as well in most of the parties, and not a clear direction if it's a liberal party or if it's a socialist or if it's a capitalist party. It's been all of these things and different things in different countries, which is an interesting way of doing things, but it's also like really hard to attach yourself when you have a clear ideological kind of grand vision of things, to say like, yeah, we're not anything except these three things, and then at the same time we'll give away the votes on everything else that matters to you, which I had a hard time with to begin with. I think it's been better now. The Swedish party is very open about being a liberal party, social liberal party, and I think the Icelandic party is maybe a little bit that way as well, but a little bit different. And they found their own ways that are much more clear. I think it's better for the voters as well. I think it's interesting what's going on with the Czech Pirate Party.
Yeah, they've been a huge success, more so than I ever thought would be. So.
Yeah. And then the most interesting thing is that that's the party I'm probably the least involved with of all of the pirate parties. I've never talked to any one of them. So maybe it's my credit that I'm not involved whatsoever. Maybe that's why it's working out so well for them. I don't know.
Maybe they haven't fallen into the trap of the Germans as well, who they tended to debate themselves into loops and circles in many ways with their liquid democracy.
And then also like having this, I think that there was a lot of too much power struggles with the German Pirate Party as well. Internal forces. So hubris is kind of the word, I think.
And I want to thank you for your time and for talking to me about this.
Yeah, thanks for talking to me as well. It's always interesting talking to someone you kind of know for years, but then never really chat with.